So President Trump is speaking here. The president recently did an interview. He was asked how the economy was, to grade the economy. He gave it an A+ and then some additional pluses. Why do you think all Americans are not feeling that A+++?
Well, look, I think Americans are going to feel it. And everything we've done in the past year is setting the table for a great 2026. And we inherited a mess. You had to stabilize costs. Real wages are up. I call it, I'm going to talk about it in my speech tonight, the 3 I's that cause the problems we've seen. Immigration, interest rates, and inflation. Immigration, the mass unfettered immigration, 10, 20 million people coming across the border, push down working wages, and cause housing prices to go up, rental prices to go up, cause the scarcity. President Trump has closed the border. 2 million people have gone home, so check on immigration. Bond market had the best year it's had since 2020. Interest rates are down, mortgage rates are down. We're starting to see life in the housing market, and rental rates are down about 5%. I expect they'll be down 10 or 15 from the peak. And then 3, inflation, we're working on that. The energy prices are down. Gasoline nationally is now below $3 a gallon. It's below $2 in a couple of states. So I think we're on a very good track on inflation. And I'm also the IRS commissioner as well as the Treasury Secretary. And I can see that the president's signature initiatives in the One Big Beautiful Bill, and I tell you, he fought harder than anyone for these. No tax on tips, no tax on the overtime, no tax on Social Security, auto deductibility. That the bill was passed in July. Working Americans didn't change their withholding, so they're going to be getting very large refunds in the first quarter. So I think we're going to see $150 billion of refunds, which could be between $1,000 and $2,000 per household. Then they'll change their withholding, and they'll get a real increase in their wages. So I think 2026 is going to be a very good year.
Let me ask you something else about 2026 that could affect people's budgets, and that is the cost of their health insurance. Does the administration have a plan to lower health insurance costs, or at least keep them from going up, because that deadline is fast approaching for the Obamacare subsidies going away?
Well, one thing we know is the Affordable Care Act was a lie, and the Democrats have done nothing on this. We've seen the rates go through the roof, and President Trump wants to get money back to the people. There are several Republican plans that are under consideration, and they will all be better than what the Democrats have done, with this patchwork and the subsidies.
Why haven't we seen one come out of the administration and say, this is the plan, this is the one we want to do?
So that we are working hard on it, and I think you're going to see it soon.
What do you think is holding things up? What's causing the delay? I know you talked a number of weeks ago that we were going to see one soon.
Yeah, I think what's holding it up is there are a lot of opinions, and the insurance companies where the Democrats send all the money have a lot of lobbyists. So when you want to pull the money away from the insurance companies, give it to the people, you're met with a lot of resistance.
I know that one of the things the administration has done recently is some funding, some money for farmers to help them out. When you look also at different groups that may have been affected in one way or another by the tariffs the administration has put in, are there plans to maybe reach out and help any of those other groups as well?
Well, let's be clear on one thing, that it wasn't the tariffs that hurt the farmers. It was the Chinese government intentionally used our great American farmers as pawns in the tariff negotiations. So the farmers were not hurt.
Although the tariffs were a part of all of that.
The Chinese decided to cut back their soybean purchases to zero, and harm our farmers. And President Trump, we had a great event in the cabinet room and in the Oval yesterday with 12 of our farmers to announce almost $12 billion in aid to the farmers. But more importantly, President Trump, when he was with President Xi in South Korea last month, negotiated 87.5 million metric tons of soybean purchases for the next 3.5 years, so our farmers are not going to be used as pawns again.
One of the other things that we have heard talk about potentially for consumers is some sort of stimulus check, potentially like a $2,000 check, maybe even coming from tariff funds. Is that in the works for 2026?
Well, we have the tariff case before the Supreme Court, and the American people will be the big loser if the SCOTUS rules against the administration for two reasons. One, that we actually paid down, shrank the deficit this year. Wasn't much, but it was smaller than what we were left with under Biden. Everyone was predicting a $2 trillion deficit. It was about 1.78, so the deficit contracted. But we're going to have to wait and see what the Supreme Court does. The other thing with this...
So it would depend on, any kind of stimulus checks would depend on the outcome of that Supreme Court case?
Well, it's going to depend on that, and also it hurts our national security because President Trump has effectively used tariffs to negotiate. He put a 20% fentanyl tariff on China. We have hundreds of thousands of Americans dying every year. The precursor chemicals from fentanyl come into Canada, come into Mexico. The product gets shipped into the U.S., and thanks to President Trump's tariffs, the Chinese have agreed to work much more closely with our law enforcement to ban the precursor chemicals.
Before I let you go, you talked a little bit about what we can expect to see in 2026 in terms of money in people's pockets. As we're standing here, I'm looking at what's on stage. It says bigger paychecks. It also says lower prices for folks who are going to the grocery store and say, it's still squeezing me. It's still too high for me. What are the next steps from the administration to bring those costs down?
Well, again, the Democrats had scarcity, affordability.
But what are you going to do?
Yeah, right. Well, that's the last part. We get to prosperity by higher paychecks, and there's some things we can control, and some we can't. The president got in office, and egg prices were through the roof. Unfortunately, beef is very idiosyncratic. There's this blight down in Mexico that we're having trouble with. But what we are doing is, as I said, energy prices are going down. And in my 40 years in the investment business, when energy prices go down, that leads everything. So even at the grocery store, a huge part of grocery prices are the transport to get the groceries there. So I think once energy goes down, everything else is going to go down. And the other thing that Americans are going to see that we're deregulating, whether it's the president was telling the farmers yesterday, we're deregulating their tractors. We're deregulating. The president signed something to get rid of these Cap A standards on cars, which increased Americans' gasoline bills. So we've got a whole range of things that we're doing, but a big part of it is going to be the increase in wages. I think we're going to see a Main Street wage boom next year.